Hello, everybody. Hi. Sonia, nice to see you. Thank you for using the chat function. We've got a really big crowd with us today. Hi, Noor, how are you? Thank you for using the chat function. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Georgiadis. I work for Navitas. I'm one of the professional year trainers there. I'm just waiting for everybody to, it's really good to see everybody. I've got there's two of us here working on the panel, so it'll either be me responding to you or my colleague Regina. Hello. I hope I say some of these names correctly. Hitesh, Mayada, nice to see you here. Thank you so much for joining. It's really good to see you. We're doing really well in Brisbane. It's a sunny day. I'm inside, of course, delivering this webinar for you. What we're going to be talking about today is video techniques. I'm just going to share my screen. Hello from Perth. Thank you for joining. I'm going to join my screen and we are going to have a look at this session that we're going to deliver to you today. We do have a Q&A chat, but we're not there yet. So let us see who else we've got here. We've got Perth. Yes, it's is it sunny Chinese weather as well? Cool. Okay. You've joined this session on video interview techniques, video conferencing. If I could have Regina let me know about the chats, if we've got any particular questions there.
We do have one.
Yeah, what's the question?
Well, the question is, do we have any clue on when the borders might open? I'm really excited to move to Melbourne.
That's a really
off topic, but a good question.
That's a really good question. The answer to that is I don't know. However, the good news is that the online border is completely open, so we can always be engaging with each other online, and until we have the open border question resolved by the state premiers, we have to continue working the way we already are. So it is a really good question, and I always get international students asking me that question and people who are wanting to move between states, but unfortunately we have to sit tight and make COVID safe choices. I hope that answers the question diplomatically. Do you guys have any other questions? Are you looking forward to this session? What particular information would you like to get from me today? If you can pop that into the Q&A. Regina, have you got that for me?
I do. Let me just have a look.
Yeah, there's a question here. Yep.
Yeah, there is a generic question from Kashish. Can I ask how can I access the recordings from previous webinars?
By Australia X.
Yeah, by Australia X. So we'll share that one and type that into the Q&A for everybody's awareness as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Apart from that, nothing just yet.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start our session and just give me a second, play from the start. So here we go. So you're here to learn about interview techniques when you're doing a video conference with a potential recruiter or a company. So the most important part is that you have to prepare for your video. It's the same way that you would so Sonia, sorry to interrupt my speech. So I've got Sonia saying, what tips can we notice in the video interview? That's a really good question. I'm just going to give you some tips now, and I'm going to stop talking and then I will open up to discussion, because everybody has an opinion about how they want to prepare for these particular sessions. So when you're preparing for an interview, you want to, it's the same principle as a face-to-face interview. The same rules apply. The only difference is that we've got this square little box right here, and that is how we convey our facial expressions, our energy. So there is a few little adjustments that you do have to make. you're still going to be interviewed by a panel. It may be one person or it may be two people. You do have to be on time. And the reason for being on time is you want to make sure that your technology is working. You want to do a sound check. You want to do a lighting check. You want to make sure that what they're going to look at the screen is something that you're happy that this is the best version of yourself that you are presenting to your panel. Because with an interview, often it's the first impression that will count, because they're only seeing the top half of us. So speaking about the whole body, you should really be dressed professionally. Don't do if you're a gentleman, don't just wear the jacket. Make sure that you're dressed fully, trousers and top, no trackies on the bottom. Ladies, be appropriately dressed for your interview. Represent yourself the way that you believe the company is representing itself as well. Prepare the same way you would normally prepare for a face-to-face interview. I'm just going to stop here quickly and ask Regina if we have any questions.
We do. I am replying to them online, though, Liz, because the questions that we've received is about enrolling into colleges, not so much on the content that we're running through today. So I will type the answer to those students.
No problem. Thank you so much. If there is a question, Regina, that you think I can answer that's related to our content, please let me know.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you have any questions about how to prepare for the interview at this point? I'll just, if you do, just write it in the Q&A and I will wait a couple of moments. So while you're thinking, I need to let you know about this competition we have. The most engaged person on the Q&A is in the running for a prize. It's a spotlight questionnaire. It's a psychometric test. Now, why I think you should absolutely be engaged and asking me lots of questions about this is because a psychometric test is what we give to our professional year students in one of our topics. And you get such valuable information about your strengths, weaknesses, where you can develop yourself. So the more questions you ask me, the more in the running you are for this competition. It's a really great tool to have because it will help you prepare better for the interview questions. So we've got one question, I think. Is there a best suited outfit for an online interview? Animesh, that's a really good question. I would say, have a look and see how that company represents itself online. You got to make sure that you match the company. So if you see them wearing suits, always err on the side of being well suited. You may want to wear a tie. It depends on the organization, but I always say, err on the side of being best dressed, so a nice tie, a nice jacket. Always go for a blue color, not black, because the blue will come across the video a little bit better. Any tips on being confident in an interview? Marihan says, I find just in general interviews are nerve-wracking. Advice on building up confidence for either online or in-person interviews. I love that question because think about this interview as the opportunity that you have to show how amazing you are. Use your nerves as excitement instead of as nerves to stop talking. This is the golden moment that you have been working towards. You've been writing a beautiful cover letter that talks about your strengths. It responds to all the selection criteria, and then your resume follows that up with additional information about all your wonderful experience. So when you get to that golden moment, which is your interview, this is your opportunity where you have the freedom to talk about yourself and what value you're going to add to the company. So reframe the way you think about the interview. Don't look at it as an opportunity where people are going to be looking at you and staring at you. It's not about judging you. It's about finding out as much as they possibly can about you so they can make sure that you are the right match for this role and for that team and that company. I hope that gives you some guidance about that. Why be fully dressed when they will eventually see the top half only, right? Well, you don't know that. you don't know how the interview will go. It's always best to be prepared, represent yourself the best way possible. You wouldn't go half-dressed to an interview anyway if it was face-to-face. Err on the side of always being the best version of yourself. Things can happen. Say your internet connection is not working in the office that you've decided to use, and you have to take your laptop and you go to another place to get a better internet connection. They may see half of you dressed and the other half not dressed. So don't provide that. Don't provide that scenario. We've got some fantastic questions here, Regina.
Yeah, there's a few of them. Did you want to go through all of them now or hold off until the end of the presentation?
I'm just going to hold off on some of them, yeah, and I will keep going with my next slide.
Okay, all right.
But I will leave my Q&A open because there's some really good questions. So as I was answering to some of the other questions that we had about seeing the, should we dress up or should we dress down? Always go as you would intend to go at a real live interview face-to-face. Practice before the interview. Now, there's many, many different ways that you can practice. What I like to do is an interview cheat sheet. So I write down as much information as I possibly can. I deconstruct the job description. I make sure that I have examples for every part of the selection criteria. I make sure that I have all my documents in front of me. So you can take your documents into the interview, and you would have your documents with you in front of you in an online video situation as well. You can refer to your resume because they're referring to your resume as well. They will definitely be referring to your cover letter. So you should also have a copy of that. You should also have a copy of your job description. So because they will ask you a question like, tell me what you know about our company. When you've jotted down your notes on that job description, it's a great way for them to see that you're actually really prepared. You can ask a friend to help you with the mock interview, and I would be very careful about selecting specific questions that are related to the job description so you can get your friend to ask you those specific questions. Asking you random questions that are not connected to the job description isn't going to be a really great support to you. So make sure that those questions are related to the job description that you've applied for. Get them to ask you a series, so I've just commented on that, get them to ask you a series of questions based on the job that you've applied. Practice the online meeting. Set up a Zoom with a friend. Use the same software that the company is going to use. So if you know they're going to send you a Zoom link, prepare on Zoom. Test the software. See if it works for you. Find the best place in your house. Or whenever you get an invitation for an interview, they send you an informational email with a link, with a number to call if there is a problem, what they expect. They may expect specific questions depending what industry you're in. They may ask you some technical questions. They may even say, we want you to do a quick test online. So there's going to be a lot of information on that email, along with the software that they will be using for your video platform. Usually, and lately, people are using Zoom. So the more practice you are on Zoom, the better it will be for you. Regina, do you see any questions there that I should be answering?
We have a few, so I'll read out one from Devyani. I was wondering about how to tackle a question when you do not know the answer to it.
That's a great question. And my answer to that is, it depends on the question. So what's a question that you have in mind, Devyani, that you do not know the answer to? If you can pop a question that you think is an answer that you might not have, then I can answer that question. However, if you're well prepared, you'll be able to answer any question. The interview panel is not asking you questions to throw you. Their job is not to ask you a trick question to see if you can overcome challenges. They're going to ask you questions that are completely related to the job description, the company culture. They're going to not test you, but they're going to ask you questions about how well you know the company. So that's part of the preparation. You should be preparing, you should do a market research on the company. You should know who their customers are. You should know who the customers that they have, who their customers are, depending on what industry you work for. So say, for example, you want to be working in IT and you want to work for a telecommunications company. So you want to make sure that you know who the customers are for that specific telecommunications company are, but you also want to find out who the customers are of the customers, if you know what I mean, because your company is providing a service not only to their customers, but to their customer's customer. So the more you know about your company, potential company that you want to work for, the more prepared you are for the questions that they're going to answer. Have we got a question in mind somewhere in there, Regina?
I haven't received one from Devyani, but another question is from Varun. Who should disconnect the call after interview? Interviewer or job seeker?
That's a really good question. I would take my cue from the interviewer. They will let you know, and usually there's a prompt, and the prompt is if you've answered the questions, and then they'll ask you specifically, they'll say, do you have any questions for us? You should always have a minimum of 5 questions on your cheat sheet to make sure that you have them. And when you feel that they've answered your questions, that's their cue, that's their prompt to take over again, and then they will let you know what the next steps are. And when they've told you what the next steps are, that's your cue to sort of say, thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed meeting you. I look forward to hearing from you whenever the next stage is. And then you just click on leave and off you go. Is there anything else you see that I should answer?
Yes. So Devyani's typed in the question from following on from the first one. So as I have IT background and I have written in my resume that I know Linux, what if they ask a question regarding Linux that I might not know the answer to?
They won't ask you a detailed question, because in an interview they don't have time to really test your knowledge. If they wanted to test your knowledge on Linux, they would ask you to do a test, an online test at a different time. However, I would do a quick overview of the software that you know how to use, and then I would go onto the Linux website and I would go to a tab that looks for frequently asked questions, how to troubleshoot specific technical issues, and then I would look for what the general Q&A is on that website. So for example, I would look for somewhere on the website that tells me troubleshooting. What are the most frequently troubleshooted elements with using this particular platform? I would put those down on my cheat sheet so I have an understanding of it. And then I would talk to that. I wouldn't dive deep into it, but I would say I'm familiar with, I have working knowledge of how to solve this particular problem.
All right, a related question that I'll read out, and then I think we'll continue on with the presentation. So continuing Devyani's question, personally, in such situations, if one is unaware about an answer, the respondee should just be honest and say something like, currently, I'm not too sure about that. I will certainly find out and get back to you. Is that a correct approach?
Oh, I see that here. This is from Mehak Preet. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to say no, because you have time to prepare for the interview. So I wouldn't say don't be too sure, because then that shows the interview panel that you haven't done your preparation. What your job as a candidate is to prepare. There are going to be questions that you don't want to answer. For example, the salary question. You don't want to answer that question. That's when you give the question. That's when you respond with, I'm aware of what the market rate is. When the panel has decided on a shortlisted applicant, I would welcome the opportunity to engage in that conversation. It's very blanket, very nice way of saying, I'm not ready to answer that question. And then that also demonstrates that you have the knowledge of what the market rate is. But if you're talking about your specialism, you should know broadly the areas in your specialism and where some of the troubleshooting that you would need to do. So I would always err on the side of preparing. Prepare, prepare, prepare. That's my mantra. That's why we, when we do professional year, we provide we help our candidates with a cheat sheet, and a cheat sheet is anything you want it to be. It's going to list the company, the mission statement that they have, the vision. It's going to list who their customers are, what tools that they use. If you know that you're applying for a company that uses software that you're not familiar with, your job is to look and see if you can get a free trial of that software and play around with it. Go on community boards, interact with your network on LinkedIn, ask them questions about what kind of problems do you have with this particular software? What are your troubleshooting techniques? This, it's a really great time for candidates to tap into expertise via LinkedIn, because even though the jobs may not be, there may not be a plethora of jobs, there is a plethora of opportunity to network and tap into your industry knowledge. So prepare. You don't need to say, I'm not too sure about that. You can always say, I have working knowledge, but I'm looking forward to developing more in this area. You want to present your can-do attitude, and you want to use language that demonstrates that as well. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Is there anything else that you see I should? I've got one last question, from Jennifer, that says, my question is, how do you handle your nerves before the interview? I think I mentioned that earlier. Use your nerves as excitement. I love interviewing. My friends and family and my network think I'm crazy because I'm always applying for jobs to get the interview experience. The more opportunity you have to talk about yourself, the more you develop that confidence. And the more confident you are, the less nerves you have. If you're nervous because you really, really want that job, translate those nerves into excitement for the position. That's how you demonstrate passion for something that you love. So my go-to strategy is be excited, show that energy through the nerves, smile. You don't get an opportunity to see a lot of nonverbal because we're using in that little box. But when your face shines and you're talking about something that you absolutely love, that conveys through to the panel, and they can see that energy and they can see that passion. So a practice interview can help you prepare for the question. So you can ask your friends or family or a colleague from your current job that you maybe want to get some help from them, and you can ask them give them questions to help you to answer. So you want to check that your laptop is working. Often when I have Zoom sessions, sometimes people the candidates say that my laptop is not working, so I have to connect with the phone. That's the worst case scenario. You always want to make sure your laptop is working. Check to see that you've done the updates required on your laptop, so you're not doing them just 5 minutes before your interview. Make sure that you have a good steady connection, a broadband that works. Use a headset, just like we've got on now, to test the audio. And you don't want to come across as shouty sometimes if you're not using a headset. So you want to make sure that all of this is your equipment, this is your technology that you need to make sure that it's working. Our next slide is looking at how to make a good impression. Now, setting up your interview space, make sure you have a good, clean space, that it's well lit. I think my lighting at the moment is the highest that I've got on. So you want to make sure that you've got additional lighting around you so you can give that light on you. Make sure that the spot that you have is really quiet. You don't want to be interrupted by friends, family, cats, dogs, anybody's children around you. You want to make sure that you're focusing on the panel because they'll be focusing on you as well.
Liz, I'm going to interrupt you there because
we've got
some related questions. So one from Noor. In case during the online interview our webcam is not working, how to show that we're engaged in the interview using our voice, for example?
Through intonation. So I'll give you an example. If I'm going to read out what's on my slide right now in two different ways. How to make a good impression. during your practice session, set up your interview space. There's no intonation whatsoever. It's just speaking like a robot. But if I say it again, how to make a good impression. During your practice session, set up your interview space. Make sure you choose a space that is clean and tidy and well lit. So the language you use is going to help you give that energy. So you can be energetic about what you're talking about. And remember, you're talking about yourself. You're talking about your strengths. You're talking about how amazing you are. So you should be full of life when you're talking about yourself. So that's how you're going. If your webcam is not working and the panel still wants to continue the interview, then my recommendation is to show the passion for what you're talking about through your voice. So make sure that you're using intonation, that you're emphasizing specific words. Think about how a journalist presents the news. If you can, and have a look tonight when you get off the webinar, listen to the news on the radio, because that's with no webcam, and you're driving home or you're listening to the radio. Listen to how the journalist tells the news that way, and you can hear the intonation and the energy in their voice. Does that, hopefully that makes sense. Do you have anything else for me, Regina?
I do. So one from Joyce Gabriel. I heard that you need to exacerbate your personality in a video interview to compensate the non-verbal language that is not possible through a video call.
That's a very long one. I need to read that because I'm a visual person. Sorry. Okay. Where is it?
So Joyce Gabriel, a bit further up.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I've found hard to access my notes. Is that the one?
No, so I heard that you need to exacerbate your personality in a video. Further up, yep. came in at 5:41, if that helps.
Okay,
Joyce
I've got it now. Yeah,
You've got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you say exacerbate, I'm assuming you mean how do you accentuate your personality in a video interview? It's exactly the same way I'm describing. Your voice and the energy you bring to the topic you're talking about. I love talking about interviews, right? So you can hear my energy and you can hear my enthusiasm. If I was to turn my screen off, which I won't because we're recording, you'd still hear the same energy and the same passion for my subject. You're an expert in your field. You have spent years studying this topic. No one knows this area better than you, other people as well in your industry, but you all come from a different perspective. So if you have that passion for what you're doing and you love the company you've chosen to what you want to work for, that you've applied for, that will naturally come through. You actually don't have to do anything. But if you're focusing too much on, are they judging me? Am I going to say the right thing? You're going to be struggling with, am I being authentic? Did they understand me? And then that's when the lack of your preparedness will come through. So the more prepared you are, the less you're going to be worrying about those types of questions. And hopefully that makes sense. So we've got a lot of questions, Regina, on how to be confident.
We do. So a number of questions on how to be confident, and one that's related to your point about preparing for the interview itself. Is the background important for the interview? Do we have to change the background screen on Zoom, for example?
I would say no, because what better time for them to see your interests. I would have a nice a wall. Maybe you've got a beautiful wall. So for example, in the background here where I am, you can see a print. That's a frame. That's a frame of my wedding photos, because that's where I've put my wedding photos. But you could have pictures of places that you've traveled to, books that you really admire. So if you actually do a little YouTube search of these people who give career advice, who give advice on a variety of different topics, you'll see that they have a staged background where they have books that they like to read, or artifacts like little figurines of places that they've been to. You can certainly have that, but I wouldn't have a background, because this is another opportunity for the panelists to see your personality. And why hide it? Of course, you want it to be nice and tidy. So no clothes, no dirty laundry in the background. You want it to show the best parts of your interests. Anything else I need to respond to immediately?
I think we'll hold off because some of the questions that I can read through, you are about to talk to those points.
Fantastic. Okay. So making a good impression. So you've got this image here with a lady with the light in the background. You can see that she's got it's a generic image. What would make this image perfect for me is to see her resume, cover letter, interview cheat sheet on her desk to prepare. So during your practice interview, you want to arrange your lighting. You want to make sure that you're not sitting in a glare or shadow. Change the angle of your monitor so you can appear on the screen at a correct distance. Make sure your camera is not aimed at your nose. So you don't want people looking up your nose. You don't want people looking down your nose. You want to be looking straight ahead to the camera. So you will have seen that I'm looking directly at my camera because that's me making eye contact with you. Now, if I was doing it the opposite way, I would be looking at my screen here because I would want it to look at your face. So you got to remember as if you're taking a selfie, but it's a video, and you're constantly looking at the camera to make that eye connection. And the panel will know that that's what you're trying to do, that you're creating that connection with them through the camera. So if you can't get a friend to help you, use the record functionality and record yourself answering the questions. I'm going to share in a moment a really cool platform that you can use to help you with your interview. I love this tool. It's called Picturific, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in a few minutes. But you can also do this using YouTube. You can use Vimeo. You can use a Google recording or whatever recording functionality that you have on your screen. You can even ask a friend to do a video recording of you using your phone. So then you can play back so you can see what it looks like and what you sound like. I think before COVID-19, we all had we may not have liked the sound of our voice online, and we may not have liked the way that we look online. But I think because now this has become part of best practice, learning how to present yourself online is going to be an employability skill. And I say that because more and more businesses are learning that people can work flexibly and remotely, and the way we interact with our team now is online. So if you're working online or if you're having meetings with friends online, it's the same principle. You want to make sure that you're always presenting the best version of yourself and that you understand how to function in this particular space. So the more practice that you have by recording yourself, the more you can sort of see, oh, I say a lot, or I use the word like a lot, or I'm fidgeting, like I could be sitting in a rotating chair and I could be doing this a lot because I have this nervous energy. By recording yourself, you're really identifying your triggers, and then you're saying, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to eliminate the ums and the likes. A really good strategy to do that is before you answer the question, look at what you've prepared as an answer and then talk about it. If you feel an is coming on, just pause naturally, take a nice breath, and then continue talking. Because the more ums and likes you put in your sentence, the less credible you sound to the interviewer. Hopefully that's clear about how to make a good impression. Now, how are we going for time, Regina?
We're at 10 past 6, so we've got about 20 minutes left.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to stop sharing. I'm not sharing my screen, but I'm going to show you this platform called Picturific. Now, there is a video that you can watch, but I'll play the video, but I won't. I'll mute it so I can talk over the video. So this is a platform. If you log on, you can do a free trial. And what it does is you can pick a template. So if you're doing an elevator pitch online, you want to attend a networking event, you can write your elevator pitch. You can pick the interview template, and then you can put the content in of what you want to talk about. And then it records you actually reading everything like a teleprompter, which is what journalists do. It's a really great way to see yourself in the full glory of how the interviewer is going to see you. And then you can play it back, rewind it, get some tips. I love this tool and I use it with all my candidates. I also use it with my clients who have a fear of public speaking, and it gives them that practice on how to do it. So if I stop sharing, I will show you what this looks like in terms of how you would actually go ahead. So you could try the tool. Just it needs you to sign up, but you can try the tool. I won't sign up because that'll take a lot longer. You get a 7-day trial, and that's really great because you don't have to commit to it, but it gives you the trial, and then you can get to practice the way you will actually sound on the video. So you fill out all this information. They've picked the investor elevator pitch, but if you have a go on it, you will pick the interview pitch, and then you can actually write down your answers. Now you can see here it says too fast, too slow. So if you're reading at the way that the prompting is showing it to you, you're going at a good pace. I love this tool. It's a really fantastic tool. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm open to questions. What would you like to know? Do we have any Q&A questions?
There are a number of them that we've got, Elizabeth. So did you want me to read them out to you? Would that be the best way?
Yeah, I can see them as well. I'm just going to move this screen up. Yeah.
Okay. So we're up to Olivia's question, asking about what should I do if I screw up one question and there's no going back?
Sorry, if
I screw up a question during the interview.
Keep going. It happens. It happens. You'll get another opportunity. Also, don't forget, they're also looking to see how resilient you are in your interview. People, we're not robots. We think on the spot. We're thinking on our feet. We're answering the best way we know how in that moment. And the interview panel knows that you're nervous. They know that if they don't get the right answer from you, they're going to ask the question again in a different way to give you that opportunity to ask to answer again. If when I have felt that I haven't answered the question or I've made a little bit of a mistake on that, I will always follow up my answer with, does that answer your question? It gives them the opportunity to help me, and it lets them know that I'm unsure that I've answered that question correctly for you. Can you give me another go? Can you give me another attempt to answer that question? And usually that strategy works. They do ask me again. They say, yes, you sort of answered the question, but what we're really keen to know is, and then they ask the question again.
Thank you. A related one that Wency posted is when you find yourself just throwing out words instead of answering the answer, or the question rather, it should say, what should I do to re-answer the question instead of just stop talking?
That's a sign of not preparing. If you're not prepared, you're responding to the questions as they come. A good preparation will have anticipated the questions, because the job description actually tells you what kinds of questions they're going to answer. What kinds of questions they're going to ask. And the answers are actually in the job description. One thing, and that's part of the preparation. I always refer to the interview as your golden opportunity that you have to work really hard to get. The cover letter and the job description and the job deconstruction that you do on the job description is the most important thing before your resume and before your interview. It's if the cover letter tells you what they're going to ask, it tells you the answers they want to know, and it tells you everything about the company that you need to know. So the more time you invest in that process, the easier it is to write your cover letter, the easier it is to create a targeted resume. And when you've done those two things, you are so ready for that interview because there is nothing that you don't know about that company within the realm of your research. If you were really a high performer at university and you enjoyed research questions, apply that strength to researching a company. Don't skimp on the research of a company. The first guaranteed question you will have is, tell us what you know about our company. And they will ask it in a variety of ways. Why do you want to work for our company? What value can you provide to our company? All of that is a variation of tell us what you know about our company.
Thanks, Liz. A couple of questions raised around this with, students having their notes, write their pieces of paper, be it their resume, cover letter, or printed information about the organization, for example. Sort of looking back and forth, potentially distracting, seeming disinterested. What would be your suggestion to manage that?
It actually is not showing disinterest at all. The panel goes into the interview with paperwork. They are making notes on the interview. So this is how an interview works. I don't know if you know about this, so I'm going to give you a very high-level overview. And Regina, tell me if we run out of time, okay? So the panel is going to debrief about you as a candidate. Everybody's read your resume, everybody's read your cover letter, and that's why you've been shortlisted. They know what questions they want to ask you, and they have divided the questions up between them, each member of the panel. So they know which question, who's going to ask which question, and they're taking down notes. They're not distracted. You also are asking the panel questions. You're going to be asking the panel questions like, what problem does the company have that hiring me will solve? What value do you see? What will make me successful in this role? You want to take those notes down. That doesn't come across as disinterested or distracted. I have never gone to an interview without my paperwork, and the feedback I have received 10 out of 10 times is this candidate was engaged. This candidate was well prepared. I love the fact that they had done all this research about our company and that I could see it. It's visible preparedness. They can see you've done your homework. And you're not going to be constantly looking down like that. Because if you've read the material and you know this company really well, you're not actually looking down on it. You're using your paperwork as a prop. So think of it like acting. You're looking down as a prop. You're looking down to give you a moment to collect your thoughts and then provide a response. You're not rushing through to answer the questions. Hopefully, I hope that makes sense.
Great, thank you. I think, we had a handful around that, whether that is an issue with you sort of looking at different pieces of information, be it printed or on screen. So one that Kay has typed in as well is, how can I know if the interviewer is interested in what I am saying during the interview?
Oh, I love that question. That's a good question. The same way you know that they are interested, the same way that you show interest in them, through active listening. You're making eye contact, you're paraphrasing the question if you didn't understand it, you're asking them to clarify. You will know. You will know because they're going to be focused on you. There is a question here that I would love to answer, if that's okay, Regina. It is about stutter.
Yes, I had that next.
Awesome. We're on the same page. That's cool. I did have a professional year candidate who did have a stutter. And we worked through the strategy for that. And the strategy, I'm not a specialist in that area, but I know that when you have a stutter, it can cause you extra stress about, how am I going to express myself? Will I be okay? That's when the preparing is your best friend. It's your toolkit. It's your strategy to overcome the nerves or the thinking about the stutter. take your time. The panel is understanding, and the recruitment process embeds inclusive and diverse practices. So they are fully prepared for the people who interview you have undergone training for interview. That's best practice. So they know how to conduct an interview. They know how to make you comfortable. They know how to create that safe environment where you can actually provide the best version of yourself. Don't focus too much on the stutter getting in the way. Prepare, listen to yourself. It's part of who you are. Own it. Don't see it as a limiting belief. I hope that gives you a little bit of confidence about that. Regina,
Elizabeth, another one that we have a couple of questions on is around phone interviews as opposed to Zoom. So again, tips around that would be great.
Same principle. The only thing is you do not have to worry about lighting. What you do have to worry about is you're not going to be at Coles and have an interview, or Woolies. You're not going to be in a cafe with your friends and have a phone interview. They will pre-arrange the time for an interview, and you have to make sure that you are in a nice, quiet space. You've got your paperwork in front of you. You can even, if you're using your phone, you can plug in your headset. You can be in front of your computer, have the company in front of you so you can respond to questions. Do not read from the screen. You still have to do the preparation. These are strategies to help you. This is not a quick fix. I don't believe in shortcuts. A shortcut is not something that's going to help you in the long term. Later on, as you become a professional and you've been in your industry for 5 to 7 years, you will develop shortcuts. You will develop your own strategy. But when you are starting out, you always take the long journey. You got to learn everything about the interview process. You got to learn everything about the process in career management so you can deliver the best result for yourself. If you take a shortcut, the recruiter will take a shortcut. So to recap, use the same principles, a nice quiet space. Say, for example, you get a call from a recruiter, you've put in your resume and you've responded and they want to talk to you and they say, do you have time for a quick 5-minute chat? And you don't have the time because you're not in the right space, it's okay for you to say, I really love the fact that you've called me, but I'm out at the moment and I'm not able to focus on the conversation. Can we please make another time for this call? It's important for you to, you're not challenging anybody, but you're basically saying, I really value this opportunity and I value this connection. But this is not the right time for me. Because if you're distracted, your friends will be in your face. They'll be making faces. They're going to try to make you laugh. That's not what you want. You want to be in an environment where you can really focus on what they're talking so you can give the best answer.
Thanks, Liz. I think 2 questions, which is a sort of at the tail end of an interview, which is, spot on. I'm just mindful of the time that we've got. So looking at one from Hitesh, how to ask for feedback was one question. And the other one is how to end the interview, which give a good lasting impression.
Okay, 2 great questions. Feedback is my favorite thing in the universe after interviews. When you finish your interview, when I finish my interview, on my way home, I reflect. I recommend you, when you're starting out, to have a job journal. So record every interview that you have. Record the tricky questions. After your interview, go and have a coffee. Calm yourself down. Pull out your notebook. Write down how you thought the interview went. Write down which questions you felt you answered correctly. That's why, as you're taking notes, because of what you've asked them, you will be able to reflect on that as well. If they ask you a tricky question that you feel that you sort of stuffed up, write that down and then think about later what you could have said. When you got to let it sit for a little bit, marinate in your thoughts, And then you can either respond later in the afternoon or first thing the next morning, and you respond to the person who organized the interview for you. And you say, hi, I'm going to use my name. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with you and the panel yesterday. I really enjoyed this interview. I loved learning more about your company and the kinds of activities that I might be involved in the future. I would really love to get some feedback about my interview, especially if it helps me to improve next time. Usually they will respond. It depends. Now, I know Hitesh says many of recruiters don't reply to candidates. It depends on the company. If you're going via a recruitment company, they may not respond. The company will respond directly to the recruiter, and the recruiter will call you as a standard practice to ask you how you thought the interview went, what they thought of you, and they will ask you for your opinion about the actual company. Hopefully that answers that question. And then the other one was, Regina, what was the other question?
Sorry, the other one was just wrapping up the interview, really, like as far as asking feedback. Yep. And also following up. So yep. That good lasting impression, how do you end, the interview on that high note?
On the high note, I always say, thank you so much for the opportunity to interview and meet you. I really love the company and what it does and how it supports its customers. So I'm looping back to letting them know that I know about the value that they give their customers. I hope to hear from you. Good luck with interviewing the other candidates, and leave it there. Back in the pre-COVID days, I could shake their hand. So you won't be able to shake their hand now if you're online, but you could leave it the way that I've just said. Thank you so much for the opportunity to interview. I've really enjoyed the interview. I've enjoyed learning more about the company and how my skills can translate to the tasks that you need done, and how I might work with the team. I look forward to hearing from you as soon as you've shortlisted. Good luck with the rest of the candidates. And I wish them a nice afternoon or a good rest of the morning, whatever time of day it is. We've got a question here about what a good cover letter should include, but I don't know if we have time. You'll have to sign up for the next webinar if there is one on cover letters.
And on that, actually, Elizabeth, Mihakpreet is our winner for tonight for the spotlight.
Awesome! So
that's ending on a positive note with the last
congratulations.
question. So please send through your details. I've typed in an email address there that you can send that to, and we will provide you with the information on how to go about accessing that spotlight psychometric test.
Awesome. Can I quickly respond to that second last question Mihakpreet has asked?
Yes.
It says, is there any way to make the interviewer take interest in you? Ask them how their day is. You're taking an interest in them first. Ask them how their day is going. Create a connection. Ask them, how your day is going. What are you looking forward to? What do you hope to learn from me about in this interview? I always ask people, what would you like to know about me? I'm preempting the tell me about yourself question, but I'm not waiting there for them to ask me that question. I'm saying, thank you for inviting me to this interview. What would you like to know about me? I'm just create that energy. I don't see it as an interview, but as a conversation with colleagues. I don't make myself over familiar with them, but I'm speaking to people who are in my industry. So I should be able to talk to them on that level. These have been some fantastic questions. Yes, you can take a cheat sheet to a face-to-face interview. Olivia is asking if the panel is speaking too softly. What can I say that will sound respectful yet not make them too embarrassed? You can say, that's a great question, but can you please clarify what you would like? Can you clarify it for me? And then that will give them an opportunity to restate the question. Is there anything else, Regina, that you think that I haven't answered?
I think we have covered all of them. I mean, we're nearly out of time here. So really good questions, and hopefully everybody on this call has really found that useful. I know that Insider Guides also popped a poll question not that long ago.
Yes, there's a poll
survey.
Question.
So
I hope you guys have got some good information from today's session. My last bit of advice for you is make sure your LinkedIn profile is looking amazing. You need to be developing your personal brand. If you look for me on LinkedIn and you want to make a connection with me, feel free to make a LinkedIn connection. Let me know how you know me. Don't just do a blanket connection request, because I need to know who you are. And I would like to wish you the very best in your journey on finding your dream job.
And Elizabeth, I know that Insider Guides has added this to the chat, that there are other sessions coming up, and one that is a good one. It says, take a photo of yourself watching today's webinar for a chance to win a gift card. So the hashtag is there, AustraliaX. So just making everybody aware of that.
I've just seen a few questions about my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn name is my married name. So if Regina wants to share that later, she can. I don't know where to share that, but.
Do you want me to just type it into the chat, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Do you want me to spell it?
I've got it.
Okay.
Let me just type that there.
I think I have LinkedIn open, but I've got my students messaging
the right
me.
One?
I've got students messaging me on LinkedIn at the moment, so I won't show my LinkedIn profile.
All right, but I did type it there, guys. So Elizabeth's full name just in the chat function. So I think...
actually, it's the married name is this one here.
Ah, sorry.
That's okay, Regina.
I didn't know that was your married name. I assumed it was the one that I...
Yeah, that's well, okay. There you go. I haven't transitioned fully to my married name yet.
Fair enough. All right. Well, everybody's got that on there.
Thank you.
I think that is us. Time is up.
Awesome.
So
thank you so much for listening to me, guys. I love this topic. I look forward to connecting with you. Stay positive. Look for opportunities. I know it can be a challenging time, but what you have going for you is resilience, innovative thinking, and use those employability skills. And just go out there. Don't be afraid.
Thank you all. Thank you, Elizabeth. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye.